Yes. And we're live.
Hey, hi everybody. Captain Ron here with my first officer, Dieter Staudinger. And we're really glad you're here with us tonight, as we are every Tuesday. And if you've ever felt anxious about flying or ever avoided a trip for that matter because of fear, or if you've sat on an airplane wondering whether you could make it through, this is a safe place. And every week we come together as a community to learn, to share, and most importantly, to remind ourselves that we don't have to let fear keep us grounded. And tonight's show is going to be extra special. I've got a great guest. Her name is Grace Rem, and she just flew a couple of days ago, made the mistake of reaching out to me, and I grabbed her and said, "Hey, we got to have you on the show." And she'll be sharing her journey, how she went from being a fearful flyer to we'll say more fearless, and she stepped confidently into the role of a capable traveler. And her story is proof that change is possible. That's one of the most often asked questions that I get is, can you really get over this? And I think you're going to find her story incredibly inspiring. I know I did. And I have an advantage. I've known her for almost 2 years now, and so we try to get people in all stages of overcoming their fear. So Fearless Flight Live is a place where Dieter and I come to talk to people. If you have a fear of flying, or maybe you know somebody that is afraid to fly, or maybe you're just fascinated by airplanes and flight, and we do this once a week, Tuesday nights, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. And so we're glad that you're here. So with that, I'm gonna open up my slides and get this show on the road.
And I do want to big shout out. We just passed 1,000 YouTube subscribers after last week. So thank you for subscribing on YouTube as well. And if you haven't yet, I highly recommend it because sometimes when we put out videos, because of how Facebook has changed their policy, we're now putting our more professionally edited videos on YouTube. So you have a whole library of almost 8 seasons of our show, and then you get the little interviews and other videos on YouTube as well.
And, I'm really old school. I know about doing enough to keep me barely above the water technologically here. But it's really fun to watch. As when we started the Facebook group, that was Dieter's idea, one of his many great ideas. And it's interesting to see the dynamics of that and YouTube now that's climbing, and to see, because more often than not, when I get people that contact me out of nowhere, or maybe they heard about a 15-minute coaching session, it's interesting to see that many of them have their first contact with us came through the Birds of a Feather there. So all of you who have been a member, I really want to thank you for reaching out and participating. And if you're not a member, please feel free to join. As a matter of fact, we got a slide on that. Whether you're starting to work on your fear, or you've already taken some big steps and just want the support, this is a great place. It's a safe, private, space-filled place for people who get you and get what it's like to be afraid to fly. We call it Birds of a Feather because we all flock together to lift each other up. So if you're ready to take the next step, even just to lurk and listen, join now and go over there and let us know where you're checking in from tonight, as well as when you join the Birds of a Feather there. The main thing that Dieter asked me to remind you of is it's a, if I say two-part process, you can click to join, but one of the things it's going to do, it says stay on board and answer these questions. But the main thing is we need from you to click this box that says you'll observe the rules of the group. That's one of those things over which we don't have any control. It comes from the higher powers at Facebook, so that we don't get in trouble and get bounced off. So anyway, tonight's show, as I mentioned, we're going to have Grace Rem talk to us here in just a minute. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a little bit of an ad for joining this month's this live monthly group coaching webinar. Two Selves on a Plane, How Memory Shapes Our Fear of Flying. I think you'll find it really fascinating. It comes in the realm of things in the brain that you can't change, and but being aware of them helps you accomplish and accumulate more tools and strategies. So I got just a little quirk about the calmest captain ever, and of course Dieter's monitoring our Facebook and YouTube for any questions that you might have there. So okay, well. Like I said, Grace went from being fearful to confident, and she's here tonight. I have the privilege of welcoming her to the Fearless Flight Live community, and her story is one that I can't believe you won't be inspired as I have. For her struggle with anxiety over flying, and she carried the weight of fear for years, and before she thought about, or every time she thought about boarding a plane. But she didn't stop there. She chose to face it head on, and she found some tools, not just with us. She'll probably talk about, hopefully, what she did to get to where she was, I think, last weekend. And in doing so, she not only traveled again, but she reconnected with her family and reclaimed opportunities. She wrote a note to me that just grabbed my attention last, I think, Friday or Saturday. I don't remember exactly when. But what I admire most about her is not just her courage, but her honesty in sharing the ups and downs of her journey. I've had people that come on and they say, "What do you want me for? I haven't had the best experience." I want everybody, because I want you to have a realistic appraisal of what it's like to overcome this. It's easier for some people than it is for others, but anybody can do it. I say the most important thing is to never quit, never give up. So join me in welcoming our guest this evening. Grace, come on down.
Hi,
Hey.
everyone.
Nice.
Hi.
It's great to see you. And tell us a little bit about the picture here right away, because this is the most recent thing I think that I've seen.
The pictures that are on the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the people in the middle are what I would call my support team. It's my cousin Joy on the left with the braids. She just lost her brother 2 years ago. Next to her is my dear sister. I have one sister and four brothers. Next is my brother James. He's the second oldest. Myself, and then Joy's wife Nikki. And they have been a constant source of support for me throughout this journey. And then the other picture, the little cutie pie behind me, her name is Amora. She is 4 years old. This is the first time I was able ever to meet her. She's my great niece. And Phoenix,
Wow.
Arizona. Again, my brother James, my dear Rock Galen, my sister, and Amora's mother, Aspen. And so, absolutely wonderful time. Yeah.
That's awesome. And tell everybody where you're calling from, where you live, and
I'm in the beautiful city of Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with plenty of rain and clouds and stuff like that. Does that add to your fear? Like a lot of people, if it's cloudy, do you think, that it might be bumpy or anything?
I don't really think about the bumpiness with the clouds. I'm a cloud watcher. And
Yeah.
I was, before I kind of got this thing under my belt, I felt sad because I did fly a lot, and I could seeing the clouds in the plane is much different than seeing it on the ground.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a little bit of sadness when I'd look at the clouds and I think, I'm just not up there. How do I
Yeah.
get up there?
And you shared with me before you're a nurse, and a little
I
bit
am.
about.
I'm a nurse, VA nurse, 18
Okay.
years. Very proud of that. But that also attributed to my fear of flying, as I think I'll probably speak about a little bit too.
Okay. And as a vet, I want to thank you for helping all the other vets like me out there. Fortunately, I haven't needed your services yet.
We're still open.
Still open. So anyway, so here, I made these slides without Grace having a chance to see them. So I kind of put her on the spot, but this is with the beauty of AI, I was able to take a lot of our conversations and filter through and kind of follow her journey, at least as I was appraised of it. So we first met back in November of 2023, I think. So
Wow.
why don't you, just tell us when we met, where had you been to get there?
I was pretty lost. I was pretty helpless. As I told you before, my family are very big travelers. My daughter
Wow.
went to Thailand. The whole family went to Bali. They're travelers. And there would always be a very awkward conversation because they would plan and then there would be me. And then
Oh, and that's got to be painful.
it was really painful. the other painful part of it was that I unfortunately going through a separation with my husband, who
Yeah,
was not a very supportive person for me.
sure.
And I really tried. But the last time I flew was 16 years ago, and it was very
Wow.
stressful. There was no support. So I just felt hopeless, and I was just trying to look for a solution. I saw I was going through Facebook and I saw you, and I just thought, you know what? I need to try. I need to
Yeah.
really try to figure this out. So
And
that's
I
where
think
it
the first
started.
thing you did was you scheduled a 15-minute coaching call,
Yes,
probably.
I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
wonderful. It was
Yeah.
very helpful.
And these are the things that came up then that you shared with me.
Yes.
You drove instead of flying, and anticipatory anxiety kind of peaked when you booked, felt
Yes.
trapped like a lot of people. And these are much more,
Yes.
you don't see about 85% of the time now, I see more people that are more concerned about feeling trapped and worried about what'll happen to them emotionally once they're in that airplane, rather than 30 years ago, people were more concerned about the mechanical reliability of things and stuff. Is that
Exactly.
true for you still?
It is very true. And I think what one of the big things that really helped me was really applying the tools that you provided. Well, a few things that you said. One
Yeah.
one thing that really stuck to me was sometimes you just got to get on the damn plane. I
Yeah.
I listen to the harmonizer twice a day, and I listen to
Yeah.
that and I listen to that. And then the other thing you said to me, Ron, was that you're never gonna not feel fear. You're not
Yeah.
gonna, it's not gonna go away. That really resonated with me, and I just held on to that. And I think that really was the catalyst for me, on top of the tragedy of losing my brother, that made me
Yeah.
realize that I've got one life and I got to live it. I've got to
Yeah.
get out there.
Yeah. And I'm sure when you're working with vets, you see a lot of fear, don't you? I mean, guys coming
Yes.
in either carried over, a lot of them probably got PTSD and stuff, and
Yeah.
then some of the health challenges.
Yes. And I realized that the starting point for my fear was not just that last flight where I was very highly anxious. I was not supported, but I was starting as a nurse. I went back to school and got my nursing degree at the age of 37, and seeing the
Agreed.
level of unbelievable pain and sadness,
Yeah.
it really does do something to you. So you feel like you're always going to, there's always the possibility that something bad can happen. And unfortunately, that I
Yeah.
just kind of glammed onto that. So yeah, exactly. I do feel their pain.
Yeah. And this slide here talks about the turning point. And again, that's kind of just following the things that you've written to me. So
Yeah.
you really created these things. I couldn't have done it by myself, but with AI I could. And it talked about your why. And you wrote that in the letter to me the other day, which touched
Yeah.
me to the depths of my being. Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
talk about that. Yeah.
So like I said, I a year ago, August 29th, my brother was murdered. This is Michael.
Wow.
one of my four brothers. We're very close.
Wow.
What struck me was that people are fearful of being on a plane,
Yeah.
but Michael was literally in his home. He was shot and killed in his home.
Oh, how
So that
tragic.
for
Wow.
me, it told me, you know what? I'm
Yeah.
looking at the statistical fact that you are more in danger in your home in a car
Yeah.
than you are 30,000 feet up. I also started thinking about how hardworking the crew and the staff and the pilots, what they have to go through just to fly a plane, the arduous skills that they have to perform. And I said, I need to stop negating the fact that these are professionals. They have our best interest at heart. And then I asked God to just give me the strength, and I gave it over to him. And then what I did was I just put a plan together. I put a very serious plan together, and that just started the catalyst. And I'll tell you, Captain Ron, I still felt fear, but it
Sure.
was different. It was different.
Yeah.
I
And
had a plan,
yeah.
and I went with it. And I also had a support system who also helped me.
Yeah, and those are the most fundamental things that I've gotten from people like you over the last 38
Yes.
years. It's
Yes.
it's so important to start, and because I think all of us to some degree, when we have an obstacle like that in front of us, we want to wait until we think there's a point where we won't have any or hardly any anxiety, but it just doesn't come.
No.
It shows up. It's amazingly cowardly. It'll hide out and you think you're doing well, and then you get on the airplane or something like that, and it shows up. So, and there's a notion here that, or a bullet point says choose progress over perfection. And from what I know from you exemplify that. Just keep going. Like you said, get on the damn airplane. That's what you got to do sooner or later. Here's some of the things that I took from things that you wrote me. You can talk about some, all, or none of them, but just tell us to people out there, what did you do in order to get
I'm gonna tell y'all what I did.
Right.
I set up, and I tell people anybody can do this. Not only am I working full-time as a nurse, I'm also in school to get my nurse practitioner's license. I just finished a semester.
Congratulations.
You can do it. I decided to prioritize me, and that meant that I'm going to get on that damn plane. So what I did, I listened to the harmonizer twice a day. I also listened to YouTube flights. I would watch flights all the time. I also use it's a tool called tryflightpal.com. Every day I was accountable. It's a CBT tool. It was absolutely fantastic. When the fear would come, I also talked to my therapist and I asked for them to give me something. She gave me a little something if I needed. When the fear would come up, I would tell that fear, you have no control over me. I'm a Christian. And the Bible says, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, it can be done. So I just kept going. Sometimes I would be talking somewhere and I tell the fear, I say, you can come along with me, but I'm going. I'm going. So I set up, this is called my trip book. And in my trip book, I started doing my packing. I also listed, I wrote things to remind myself, I'm stronger than I realize. I dream to live a life that is full. I will not let fear dictate my life anymore. I'm safe. Float with the plane. Float with the plane. I also wrote that plane rides are uncomfortable, not dangerous. The plane is built to be in the sky. Jello, relax. You would always say it's like a cork riding on water. I mean, I can recite that whole harmonizer at this point. I also wrote, just to keep myself, just to show that, this is possible. I wrote a very long list of, let me show you. I wrote a long list of all the people I know who went places, and guess what? They came back fine. Sima went to Italy. Joy went to the Philippines. And Janae went to everywhere. I wrote that. And I was determined to put my name on this list. So cool. I did this every day. I would not stop. And then my sister, let me just tell you about my sister. She's an absolute angel. I love her to death. I told her, I said, Galen, I want to go to Arizona. Enough said. She would check on me. She wouldn't chastise me. She didn't do anything. And so not only did I trust the crew and the flight, I put implicit trust in my sister. I did not check to see how long the flight was. I didn't check anything. My brother-in-law called me the night before. He said, I'm coming to get you at 5. Are you ready? And I knew when he said, are you ready? I knew what he meant. I said, I'm ready, Teddy. My sister showed up at my door at 5 a.m. I got in the car. I got my coloring books. I got a checklist so that I could check every noise that was on the plane and everything that was happening. I have everything for everything. I kept my mind busy.
Yeah.
And then what happened was truly incredible. We get in our row. This young man sits next to me. My sister says to him, we're so excited to be on the plane. My sister hasn't flown for a while. He said, I'm a pilot. And I said, God, you're so funny. I said, God, you're so funny. And what I want to tell people is you may not get a pilot sitting right next to you. But what I did was I normalized everything. I normalized my packing. I didn't think about anything but my packing. When we got to the airport, I looked at all the people. I looked at all the kids. I looked at everybody. And I said, nobody is looking concerned. I said, I'm not going to let fear defeat me. I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. And I got on that damn plane. I got on
did.
that plane.
You did.
I was
And then the
I
flight
was
here,
so happy.
it
I
talks
was
about a pre-flight routine, and you
yes,
obviously had worked hard on this.
I
And
worked
and that's the
very
thing that I
hard on
tell
it.
people, because the whole notion of overcoming fear of flying, which is really changing the way you think about flying,
Yes,
it's hard because
it's
we
very
have
hard.
so many years of thinking in a prescribed manner,
Yes,
especially if you have some anxiety, and it
yes,
just keeps rehearsing, just like you were an actress or something.
yes,
And
yes,
so what you represent is what I've seen in a lot of people. You write things down, you force yourself to say things differently and to not repeat those same and get that chatterbox
yes,
shut down in your mind. And I
yes.
think that's really a tribute to the diligence that you put into this.
Thank
So
you.
uh,
Thank you.
that,
I just would say I love to fly. I love to see good places. And the fear would say, no, you don't. Remember, you're in danger. I said, I love to fly. I love to see good. I would just kept repeating that. So the mind
yeah,
does do that to you.
yeah. And so when you flew, it was last week, right? That I put
Yes,
the
I
days
left
together.
on Friday. I think I left on Thursday. I came back yesterday.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And so was that the first time you've flown in a long time? I've forgotten
We,
how.
my husband, again, his approach is very much not fantastic. So he surprised me about 6 years ago to do a flight plane. So you probably know, Captain Ron, our South Lake Union, our lake, somebody thought it was a great idea to let planes fly up and down off of this lake where people are canoeing and paddleboarding and everything. It's crazy. So
It is crazy.
he booked me a flight. He said, we're going on this flight. I said, oh my God. And I look, and this guy, he looked like he was about 18 years old. He was literally filling the plane with like diesel fuel with the thing. I said, please, God, please don't let that be the captain. He said,
Yeah.
I'm your captain. I said, oh my God, have mercy. So I get in the plane,
And
and
this is sounds like a seaplane,
it's a
right?
seaplane. Yep, they go
Oh
up
my
to
gosh.
Canada and
Yeah.
stuff. So then I
Yeah.
get in the plane. I thought maybe I'm okay. No, there were these three crazy German travelers they got in. Now I can say that because I lived in Germany before. They were
Right.
they were standing up in the plane. They were taking pictures with the pilots. I could not
Yeah.
believe it. So
Yeah.
I did that. We did a loop-de-loop around the Space Needle. We
Oh my
coasted past
gosh.
the Cascades. I was not prepared, and I said, no, I can't do that again. So that was about 6, 7 years ago.
And
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that I wanted to do as a kid. I wanted to fly upside down and all that, but that's not usually a great place for someone who has anxiety about flying to start. And so, yeah, it's too
No.
bad that was your baptism
Yeah.
flight. Oh my gosh!
It,
And so,
it was
and so was
bad.
that the last time you flew then until you flew?
That was the last time. Now I did do a flight class with Alaska. They're
Yeah,
absolutely fabulous. It's two
yeah,
weekends. So
yeah.
we did the one weekend, and then the second weekend, they said, okay, you're going to do your graduate flight. But then I chickened
Uh-huh.
out. So they were flying from Seattle to Spokane. It just so happened we had a freak bomb cyclone that day. They freaked out on the plane. Most of the people
Wow.
who made it to Spokane did not get back on. They rode the bus back to Seattle. And so, you're always thinking, oh, wow, see, look, we averted disaster. No, we didn't divert. They didn't divert disaster.
Wow.
But yeah,
Grace,
yeah.
I got a quick question here from a couple people.
Okay.
There was one resource that you mentioned. I think it was like a CBT thing.
Yes. Yes. It's called Try Flight Pal. It's TryFlightPal.com. And you can go on your app, I believe, and get that. It was a game changer for me. It really did. It did help. It added in my source of tools, and it
Uh-huh.
really just helped me along with the harmonizer. Like I would fall asleep to the harmonizer. I actually listened to the harmonizer as I was going to the airport. So
Awesome.
that was
Yeah.
the other thing that changed for me too.
Yeah.
But that one is a very good CBT
And
tool.
what did the app do for you, Grace?
Every day it held me accountable. It
Okay,
actually
so it's
uses
accountability tool.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
which
uses
is great.
AI. You actually can talk to it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It talks to
Wow.
you. It gives you back references. They go through.
Yeah.
It really is a game changer. So
Oh,
I highly recommend it.
Perfect. I just got it. Tryflightpal.com.
Yes,
Perfect.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I will
And,
post that
Thank
in
you.
the chat.
and so it sounds like it prompts you every day to respond.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's
And that's
fantastic.
so
Yeah.
that's so important. That's why I tell people, why support groups and things like that, you mentioned that a couple of times already, who
Oh yeah.
kept you honest and who kept you, who supported you. And that's so important
Yeah.
to keep that in the forefront and everything. So
Yeah.
this slide's called building momentum. And
Yes.
so what's your next plan? Do you have another flight plan yet or
Yes, I'm going to continue with what I have been doing. I'm not going to
yeah,
stop. I'm going to continue to listen to the harmonizer, and I'm continuing to join Tuesdays and listen to, and use the Tri-Flight Pal.
yeah,
I'm also, what I tell people is you gotta not just say the fear means that something's going to go wrong. What I would do is I would describe the fear. My
yeah,
fear is in my stomach. And actually, when I was in Sedona, I was able to get my first reading, and the woman
uh-huh,
actually said, "Your chakra, your root chakra, and your belly is where you really feel all the feelings." So when you describe the fear, it takes its power away. And when you sit there and you sit with it, sometimes I would even dance to it because I love to dance. I would turn music on as loud as I could when I'm packing my bag
yeah,
or anything like that, so that the fear, it kind of like it started to take a back seat. It was weird. It was very funny. So I
yeah.
already have a ticket to Maryland.
Oh, cool.
I'm leaving on the 8th. So, and we're going to go to, I think we're thinking about going to Cabo in the winter. Yeah.
Nice. And
Yep.
that's and of course, based on your budget and your time and money, but if the more you can keep flying, especially at this stage,
Yes.
that's really helpful. And
Yes.
when you talked about the whole thing, there's a slogan called, it says, if with regards to fear, if you can name it, you can tame it. And
Yes.
and again, you
Yes.
pointed out, I mean, you're like a textbook for some of the things that people have spent years researching in psychology. How
Yes.
you give these things names and take the power away, because it's
Yes.
ultimately about not feeling empowered, in
Yes.
the face of our anxiety.
Taking
And
back the power. And when you
exactly,
said, I tried to do every little thing you and Dieter and everybody would say, but I met the pilots. I would never have
yeah,
done that before, but I went to I went to check in. I gave them my letter. I told them that I had a condition. They were very kind. They let us board early, and I got to meet the pilots. I couldn't believe it.
nice,
They said, "You're gonna get there just fine. You'll
yeah.
be just fine."
So what did it, just in a nutshell, what did it do for you to meet the guys or the maybe gals, but the people flying?
Everything. It meant
Okay,
everything. They were kind, they were warm, they weren't condescending. I looked in their eye, and I looked at all those buttons and lights and stuff, and I said, I believe you. And I had to just give it up. And that I had to give, I'm a control person because I'm a nurse. And that's the problem with us. I had to give it up. And so that's why I told my sister, I don't want to know how long it takes to get where we're going. I don't need to
yeah,
know that. I'm not in
yeah.
control. We're in capable hands. And that's
Yeah,
it.
and
I
you
had to
probably
give
heard
it up.
the serenity
The
prayer, right? I
serenity
mean,
prayer.
and
Absolutely.
that transcends so much in my life. Learning what
Yeah.
things you can control, what
Yes.
things you can't, and the wisdom to know the difference between the two. And we're all control. I don't care whether you're a control freak or not. And I often joke the two biggest control freaks on the airplane are the pilots, and that's why they wanted to be pilots, because they
Yes.
need this feeling of control.
Yeah.
But the thing is to accept when we can have control, because it affects our trust and
Yeah.
so much about it. So,
Yes.
but I just want to thank you.
Oh,
You have done,
thank
you have
you.
personified
Thank
so
you.
much of what we try to share with people, but it's not anywhere near as effective until we hear somebody like you.
Thank
You're
you so
articulate,
much.
you're beautiful, and you got a great spirit. I
Thank
really
you
want to
so
thank you,
much.
Grease.
Thank you so
And
much.
and and this slide here is that I would say you identify as a capable traveler now, as opposed to what you did before. And it sounds like you have an ongoing program, a maintenance plan,
Yes.
and you've got a schema what you're going to do before you get ready. So people don't have to obsess over this for 24/7, 365 a year. I
Yes.
just tell them, when you get within 3 or 4 weeks of your flights, then you just kind of rehearse that procedure that you
Yes.
have that got you through there and stuff.
Yes.
So
And
I
I
just
also
want to thank
use,
you.
thank you. I just wanted to show you guys, this is kind of like, I'm really big on things and items.
Yeah.
I used to love The Borrowers, a book. I don't know if anyone, this was part of my boarding pass. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
I just can't believe I got this thing. I just can't
I
believe
know.
it. I'm
That's so
so
cool.
excited. So
Yeah.
you can do it. You can do it.
I was just going to say, what would you tell people out there that say, well, she probably wasn't as afraid as I am? Because that's typically what they say. So what would
Um,
you say to those people,
I
please?
would tell you that if there was a person that would want to give up, it would be me. Losing one of my best friends, going through perimenopause, going through a divorce. I have every reason to say that I'm not worthy. I
Yeah.
had to say to myself, I am worthy. I do deserve to have a good life. And I just started looking at the science and I just went to work. And I'm telling you right now, it's not easy. I'm scared to fly into Maryland,
Sure.
but I'm less scared and I know that I can do it. And that's the difference. Just to be
Yeah.
scared but not believing you can do it is much different than being scared and but knowing you can do it. And you can
Yeah.
do it. So
Well,
yeah, I just
thanks.
want to
Those are
encourage you. Yeah, you're
those are great
welcome.
words. Yeah. And I'm going to move on to the other few things that we had here. I would love to have you stay with us if you want
Okay.
to. If you have
I'm
to
gonna
leave.
chime off here, but yeah, I'll be
Okay.
right here. Thank you,
Okay.
Doc.
And
Thank
we'll
you,
come
Capt
back
Ron.
and
Thank you, Dieter.
we'll come back and wish you goodbye here in just a little bit
Okay.
there. So, okay. So, as I said, coming up on Thursday of this week is our monthly Fearless Flight live monthly group coaching session. And if I was out there and I didn't know what else to do, this is something I'd consider because you're going to come and spend an hour and a half with us. We're going to talk about some stuff this week. We're going to talk about a lesser known part of how our memory works, because we don't give equal weights to things that events and experiences that happen to us. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then we're not only going to talk about them, but we're going to give you some ideas on how to skirt those issues or take control of them. And it's called Two Selves on a Plane, How Memory Fuels Our Narrative. And it's this coming Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 Eastern. It's an hour and a half. We do record them. It is really beneficial if you can come live and join us because we do at least one group activity, and you'll get a couple of meditations, and then you get access to the past webinars that we've done. So we really would like to have you come and join us. And in general, what it is it's about, why does one flight scare you for years? How does that work? So we'll talk about that. And we'll talk about why it matters so much, these two memory systems that we have. Why is it that they do such a number on our confidence and things like that? We'll give you a fresh understanding of maybe past flight experiences that soured you on flying, as well as some tools to help rewire those flight-related memories that you have. And what you need is a shift in how you view upcoming flights in order to get the confidence and maintain the confidence to get on that airplane, as Grace did. And like I said, we'll have not one but two guided visualizations to reinforce what we do that night. Okay. I want to change the thing, and I don't know. You know me, I'm likely to say anything here, but this is a story. This happened way a long time ago. This was back in June in 1982, and this is a artist rendition of this. But this was back in the early days before we really knew the significant threat that volcano eruptions could do. Now it's old school, and now we have a vastly improved capability to predict where these things will happen around the world and to measure the atmosphere and the effects on that. And we actually steer clear of this. But there was this 747 British Airways was flying from Kuala Lumpur to Perth back in June of 1982, and they went through the upper atmosphere where there was a lot of ash from this big volcano that it had down there. And imagine you're in the back of this airplane at 37,000 feet, and this captain comes over this. And now I'm sure they got some lights on in the cabin too that indicated not everything was all cool. But he comes on, he says, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the captain speaking. We have a small problem. All 4 engines on our plane have stalled. We are now doing our best to restart them. I hope this is not causing you too much concern. I don't know if I would have been that cool to say that, but it's amazing. And of course, the long story short, they did get them started. They descended. They kept it in a glide. For any of you who believe that if you don't have engines going, that the airplane will plummet, it does not. The best things that crew did is somebody was always flying that airplane, even when it was a glider. And you can imagine that. And they maintained all of their discipline, and everybody did their thing. They got in the checklist, and they got 1 engine started at a very low altitude, and that was enough to sustain flight. And then they got another one. I think they did end up landing with just 2 engines running, but they made an emergency landing there, and all 200 and how many 63 people on board, not a single soul was harmed that night. So I thought, we talk so much about this, but we don't appreciate, we see the things in the news when there are incidents. Of course, when we have terrible accidents and people die, that's one thing. But when we have incidents and stuff, and we fail to realize that how safe it is, even when bad things happen in flight. And this is symbolic of the volcano there. I don't know if this is actually the one that they went through. And this was the crew. We used to say, if you're flying a 747, you're kind of like the mayor of a small city there, because you got a whole, I think they had up to like 17 crew members on a 747. But I wanted to show you that tonight. And I hope you'll look at it as an uplifting story, at least with a little tongue in cheek on that. And I just wanted to remind all of you, as we wrap up the show tonight, I want to say thank you. Whether you're here because you're afraid to fly, or you're supporting someone who is, or you're just fascinated by the world of aviation, your presence here matters to us, and we appreciate it. And it means a lot that you're not standing still, you're moving forward. We cover a lot of stuff from time to time, and in how your memory shapes your fear, to how tools and science can help you rewrite your story. And we've heard from another powerful example from Grace tonight about how she overcame her fear. And if there's one thing I hope you take away from this, is you're not broken. There's nothing wrong. You're not alone, and you're not stuck. You have the power to reframe your experience, and we're here to walk that path with you. So if tonight sparks something in you, I invite you to join us in the Fearless Flight Birds of a Feather Facebook group. It's free, it's private, and it's full of people just like you finding their wings. So until next time, we want you to come back and spend each week with us, and then let us know how we can support you. So Dieter, any closing remarks or any other questions that we need to address?
We do have a question, and it kind of fits with your volcano story a little bit. So there's a hurricane, that's coming up, and someone is scheduled to fly, and they're really worried about flying in rain and wind and just, what they perceive as unsafe conditions. So basically she wants to know what do pilots do, and what kind of safety measures are there, so that they won't get hit by the wind speeds or the rain and all that. So if you can talk
we have forecasting, and that's the number one thing when it comes to the weather. We don't go within 100 miles of areas where there's tropical storms. We just don't. And this is interesting. I was going through my TikTok yesterday, and we're thinking about taking a cruise, and I saw this, I think it was Carnival Cruises. They were actually down there headed for Bermuda, and they came upon this area that isn't yet a hurricane. Did you see? I don't know if you've seen that. They had 30-foot waves. I'm telling you, if I had been on that ship, I would have had some second doubts about that. Yeah, I would much rather be up there than I would down there. So the short answer is that we do a lot of planning, and we just don't put ourselves in that. Everything down to having a weather radar where we can tell which clouds, which cumulonimbus cloud forms have hazards in them and which don't. And that's what we do. And then you have years and years of experience from the 2 crew members up there. So, and you got a whole team when you're a pilot. You got the National Weather Service, you got your dispatchers, and you just do a lot of flight planning, and it's nearly impossible to know unless you've ever been on the flight deck of an airplane what we do up there when before we get in the air and then after in real time what we encounter. So anyway, I hope that helps somebody out there. And I want to say one last goodbye to Grace. Thank you again, Grace, so much for being vulnerable and sharing your story with us out here. I'm sure you've inspired at least one person, and
there were a lot of hearts flying and lots of comments about inspiring story, and so yeah, I know it made an impact already just tonight. So
thank you,
so
guys.
Grace,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. And Grace is out there doing the work, and you all can do it too. So until next week, this is me and Dieter. And on behalf of Grace here, thanks for watching tonight. And we'll see you next week for another edition of Fearless Flight Live.